Hello, everyone. Welcome to Science Stories with me, Mrs. Z. Today, I'll be reading a book titled Down Comes the Rain. The author who wrote the words is Franklin M. Branley, and the illustrator who drew the pictures is James Graham Hale. All of the information in today's book is nonfiction. That means it's real information and true facts. Before we read, I want you to learn about some vocabulary words you'll hear during today's story. Down comes the rain. Here are 6 words I want to review before I read. The first word is evaporate. The next word is heat. The third word is liquid. Fourth, we have condense. Fifth, we have breeze. And last, we have hail. Let's look at the definitions and find out what these words mean with some pictures to help us understand. The first word is evaporate. Evaporate means to turn from liquid into vapor. So in this picture here, I have the water cycle. Evaporation is taking place right here. This liquid from the ocean is turning into water vapor. It's light enough to float. Here you can see another picture. This little droplet is going all the way up into the clouds, right? That's evaporation or to evaporate. Next we have heat. Heat means to make or become hot or warm. So the sun is what heats the earth, right? It's what makes it where we're not frozen solid. We can also heat things. The heat energy from the stove burner warms up this water. It makes the temperature increase and get warmer. So we can also make heat. Our next word is liquid. Liquid is a substance that flows freely but is of constant volume. That means liquid can change its shape. It's going to take the shape of whatever container it's in, but the volume or the amount is going to stay the same. It's measurable. So in each of these canisters or containers, there's the same amount, the same volume of liquid, but it looks different and it's shaped differently depending on the shape of the container. Here are some examples of liquids. We've got raindrops, orange juice, milk, ocean waves. All of these are examples of liquids. Our next word is condense. Condense means change or cause to change from a gas or vapor to a liquid. So here's the same water cycle picture that we looked at before, the same illustration. But now we're going to be looking at the condensation part. So the water is evaporated, right? It's gotten lighter and lighter and turned into vapor. Now that vapor is cooling and actually getting closer together. It's condensing and changing back into a liquid. You might see this happen around maybe a cold bottle of water or a cold glass of water. You can see that little liquid droplets form on the outside. That's condensation. This word is breeze. A breeze is a gentle wind. We have sea breezes and we have land breezes. So breezes can move water vapor around and it can help with the water cycle. Our last word is hail. Hail are pellets of frozen rain which fall in showers. Usually it's really small, even smaller than this sometimes. Usually hail is very small. Every once in a while you'll have a really bad hailstorm where you'll find those larger pellets of frozen rain. That's really unusual. They can get bigger than this even as well, but usually if it hails, the pieces will be very, very tiny and they'll melt pretty quickly as well. All right, so those were the vocabulary words that you are going to hear in today's story, and now you have a better understanding of what each one means. So let's go ahead and read. Down comes the rain. Rain comes from clouds. It comes from big clouds. It comes from black clouds, white clouds, and gray clouds. All clouds, big ones and little ones, gray ones and white ones, are made of billions of tiny drops of water. The drops are called droplets because they are so small. If this is the true size of a drop of water, a droplet would be just a tiny speck, even smaller than this one. So a droplet is much smaller than a drop. Water droplets come from water vapor. Water vapor is a gas. There's always water vapor in the air, but you can't see it, can't smell it, and you can't feel it. Water vapor is made when water evaporates. That means the water changes from a liquid to a gas. In the morning, put a teaspoon of water in a saucer. By that night, it may have evaporated into the air, especially if it's a warm day. When wet clothes hang on the clothesline, the water in them evaporates. The heat from the sun changes the water drops and droplets into water vapor. Just like the heat from the stove changes the water in the kettle to water vapor. If you heat it long enough, all the water boils away. The water vapor goes into the air. We can't see it, but that's where it goes. Most of the water vapor in the air comes from lakes, rivers, and oceans. It comes from the leaves of plants and from the wet ground. Heat from the sun causes the water to evaporate. The water changes from a liquid to a gas, and the water vapor goes into the air. My pages are sticky. There we go. When you breathe out, you put water vapor into the air. Usually you cannot see the water vapor, but it is there. Sometimes, if it's cold, you can see your breath. That's because the water vapor condenses. It changes from a gas to a little cloud. When cows, horses, dogs, and cats breathe out, they put water vapor into the air too. On a cold day, the water vapor changes to droplets and makes little clouds that you can see. In Florida, it doesn't get that cold too often, but sometimes. You can make water vapor change to water. Put a lot of ice into a glass of water. As the glass gets colder, the outside of the glass gets wet. Water vapor in the air is condensing on the glass. There may be so much condensation that the glass drips. Sometimes the glass stays dry. That means there's not much water vapor in the air. So the more water vapor in the air, the more of that condensation you'll get. The air holds the water vapor. Breezes carry it from one place to another. Much of the vapor moves up and away from the earth. Air above the earth is always cold. The higher you go, the colder it gets. When air gets cold enough, the water vapor in it condenses. The vapor changes to water droplets, and the water droplets make clouds. When clouds are thin and wispy, they are holding only a little water. When clouds are thick and dark, they are holding much more water. A single droplet is so small you cannot see it, but you can see a cloud. That's because there are millions and millions and millions of water droplets in a cloud. Inside the clouds, droplets join together to make drops. When clouds can no longer hold them, the drops fall to the earth. The sky is full of them. They fall through the air and splatter on the ground. They are raindrops. Sometimes there are only a few small raindrops that fall slowly. We would say it is drizzling. Sometimes there are lots of big drops that fall very fast. Now it is pouring. Sometimes the drops in the clouds freeze. These raindrops become ice drops. This can happen even on a hot summer day. That's because the clouds and water droplets are high above the earth. Many clouds are so high that it is freezing cold. Some clouds may be higher than most airplanes ever go. The higher the clouds, the colder they are. In these high clouds, water vapor changes to droplets, and the droplets change to drops. The drops freeze into ice. Inside the cloud, these tiny bits of ice start to fall, but they don't always fall out of the cloud. Instead, they may be carried upward by air that is moving away from the earth. As they are carried upward, more water collects on the tiny bits of ice. When that water freezes, the drops of ice have another layer on them. The ice drops are now heavier, so once more they fall toward the earth. But air moving away from the earth may carry the ice drops upward again. Higher and higher they go, and another layer of ice freezes onto them. The ice drops get heavier and heavier. They get so heavy that the air can no longer carry them upward. So the ice drops fall to the earth. It is raining ice. Yikes! The ice drops are called hailstones. They may be the size of your fingernail, that's what they usually are, really tiny, or they may be as big as golf balls, or even bigger. In 1970, hailstones as big as softballs fell on Kansas. Fields of corn were flattened by the hailstones. Hailstones are not stones, they are pieces of ice. So when it hails, go inside so you're not hit on the head. When it stops hailing, go outside and pick up a hailstone. Break it into two pieces, and you will see the layers of ice. If it's big enough, usually they're too tiny. Water in the clouds makes hail. Water in the clouds makes rain. When it stops raining or hailing, the sun comes out. Once more, water evaporates. It evaporates from lakes, rivers, and oceans. It evaporates from the leaves of plants and from the wet ground. It evaporates from cows and horses, from cats and dogs, and from you and me. The water changes to water vapor. It's carried up and away from the earth, where the air is cool or even freezing. When the water vapor cools, it condenses. The water vapor changes to water droplets, and all together the droplets make clouds. Water droplets join together to make water drops. The drops fall to the earth from the clouds. Once more, it is raining. And that's why we call it the water cycle, because it continues going around and around and repeating. All right, I really hope you enjoyed today's book. I hope you feel like you learned a lot, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.